Okay. All right. We all set here. We all set here today. And look, how you guys doing today? Really appreciate you guys for coming on board. I want to share some stuff today, right? I want to share some stuff today. Let me make sure my screen is good. Everybody can hear good. And I'm gonna take you guys off on mute for just for a minute. So, what I would like to ask before we get into the video, and I don't know why I can't get y'all up on mute. Okay, there we go. I gotta get. Okay, let me ask the question from each guy that's on right now. What would be your definition of manhood? Anybody?
I would say manhood is I would say is the ability to lead, but not necessarily be dominant over people. We are to have dominion of the world, but we're not supposed to dominate each other. I think we as men are to lead by example, lead through our walk and, take care of our responsibilities, our family, our faith. And so to me, that's my definition of manhood.
Brother Glenn, what would be your definition? You got to there you go.
My definition of manhood?
Yeah, can you speak up a little bit?
You hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
My definition of manhood. Ah, man, that's a great question coming from from my perspective, based on having to be a man who had no men figures at all around him, just trying to raise himself. So basically, it's like me, my manhood is surviving the best way I can, taking care of my kids and my wife, just trying to be the best role model, to the other people around me per se. Just survive, and it's not even manhood to me. More so, it's not about always like a job, but yeah, we have to provide. But manhood is just always trying to be influential to those around me that need me. Just different things like that, But it was always hard for me to answer that question because I never had male role models around me at all. I always had moms and sisters and those type of people. So manhood was always a hard question. But I'm glad that you're having this thing today. I needed to hear this.
So let's answer. Let's take it a step further, because I know both of you guys are men of God. What do you see because we're going to have, there's a panel. We're actually going to be doing Pastor Eric Mason. He's a church out of Philly. They actually having a barber room setting, and young millennials are talking about. We're actually discussing about manhood. And I want to play the video. And at any time, you guys, let's stop. Let's chop it up. Let's get our perspective on some of the questions that he might ask them. So, being men of God, what are you seeing? Why aren't men coming to the church? Anyone of y'all can go first.
I couldn't hear that question. Did you say why men are not coming to church?
Yeah, why are men not coming in? Let me put it in a two-part thing. One, why men aren't coming to the kingdom, but more so, why aren't they coming to the local church?
Well, I think Brother Ray is just that's a simple answer for me. I think we don't know how to get them. We don't know how to reach them. That's why. That's why, Brother Ray.
I think on my end, I think it's a different question. I mean, a different answer. It's not about us not knowing how to get them, but a lot of these pastors around this neighborhood and probably more, and I don't mean to say it like this, but they don't really have firm doctrine and teaching. It's more so a lot of hoot hollering and trying to pull the wool over your face and passing the plate a lot and trying to get you to go in your pocket 6 and 7 times while you're there. And you know, we get sick of it out here. You know, that's a lot of reasons why I can't get a lot of these guys to go to church, because they'd be like, what, are you gonna pass the plate 10 times? What, you know, what's this, what's that? I didn't get nothing out of service at all. He ain't even teaching sound doctrine. He's just constantly in my pocket. And I hear that from so many young kids where they just, baby, like, I'm trying to go to church to get saved and hear God, but yet, you know, it's like, if I ain't got enough money, I can't sit up front. Or it's like, oh, you want to be prayed? How much money you got to put in the plate for me to pray for you? You know, and so some of these young kids, they're getting tired of it. Some of these young men, all their minds are the same, because I done had meetings with some of them, and they just like, for what? All they want is my money. And that's a bad part, because now that's running these kids away from the church doors.
Bro, Ray, let me expound a little bit more on my point. I didn't really articulate that too well. So when I say we don't know how to reach them, is, I mean, to me that's what it is. But this is how, you know, we gotta be. You know, it doesn't start inside the church. It starts outside the church. You know, you don't have to be, you know, a pastor or a bishop or an apostle or, you know, someone that has a title to minister. You can minister within your own work, within your own industry, outside the church. And, you know, we got to be able to relate to these people. We can't just walk up to them and say you're going to hell, or walk up to them with a Jesus t-shirt on and hand them a tract. We're gonna scare them off. And the people that do that, they're ruining it. You know, they're scaring these people off. We can't do that. We gotta be relatable. We gotta be like Paul, how Paul, you know, transformed himself when he was ministering to the Gentiles, when he was ministering to different people in Asia. He changed people that were under the law, people that were not under the law. He changed depending on his circumstances. And, you know, he was kind of like that serpent, you know, hiding in the grass. And when it's too late, then it's time to reveal, you know, your true color and what you're about. But we got to be relatable first. And that's how we, you know, become fishermen, you know, of men. And that's how we bring these people to the kingdom. And simply, Brother Ray, we're not doing that. So that's why I say I don't think we really know how to minister and how to witness.
Would you like this? And let everybody know. Brother Glenn is actually Pastor Glenn. He deals with young. He has tell them a little bit about your ministry real quick.
Well, my ministry, you know, I come from being the associate pastor as well as to now carrying a ministry called Father to Fatherless Generation, because a lot of these kids out here, they you know, they're fatherless in a sense. And so what I'm doing is I say, yo, we're not trying to take the place of the father in the household, because a lot of times fathers could be there, but sometimes these fathers, they're like too busy for their own kids. You know, they might just want to come home, kick up their feet, watch the game. They might want to do this and that. You know, they out running the streets. Sometimes I see them, 40's the new 20, and 50's the new 30, and they run in the streets like crazy. Meanwhile, you know, we lack in raising our sons. So we started a nonprofit called Fatherless Generation. We out here just really trying to relate to the kids and the young men. And so that's what I'm doing. And in talking to them, that's why I was saying what I was saying to you. I understand what you mean by trying to get them into the church and witnessing out in the street. Because trust me, we out here witnessing all the time. But the problem is, once we get them in there, how do we keep them in there? You know, when they keep seeing all of that. You know what I mean? Because it's all good to grab them. Well, I thought the question, you know, was why they're not coming. And then it's also like, why are they not staying? You know what I mean? Because sometimes, you know, you can, if you got discernment, you can read through the heart of some of these pastors and just be like, this ain't right for me. I don't want to be in this church. You know what I mean? And every church ain't for everybody, but they still have to get the church, because I believe that church is there to heal the body. So they got to find a church somewhere that fits them. But a lot of times they just don't see the love that they supposed to see from these pastors, because they not loving these young men like sons. And that's just all I see. I don't mean to like carry on, but that's
Oh,
just
no,
how.
no, no.
No, I agree.
Discussion. Go ahead, Brother Curtis.
No, I was just saying I agree. I agree with him on that. Absolutely.
So why do you think nobody stay? I mean, even if why did they stay? And I read an article the other day, right? I should have pulled it up. See if I can pull it up in a minute, where it says millenniums are leaving the church and they're not coming back, because a lot of times we start in the church, we go out in the world, we do what we do, and then as we get older, we come back. But now there's this a narrative with millennials, they're leaving and not coming back. Why is that?
Because it's not, how the church was back in the day, in Jesus' times and in Paul's times. I mean, it was a very different church. The church should evolve and adapt over time. You got to adapt to this new generation. You just can't be, you can't expect them to, you got to be able to adapt and bend in some ways. And then I'm not saying as far as bend as far as doctrine or anything like that, but you have to be creative in your approach. You have to be creative in your ministry. You have to speak to their language in order to get them, so you can use your doctrine, but kind of speak in a different language. And they're just simply not, it's boring to them. You go to, a lot of churches, I give you one aspect, churches have to evolve and use technology. They don't want to be sitting there in a church that ain't got no screens, you ain't got no technology, no type of dramatic effect. They want to see that stuff. They want to, they want to be able to use some stuff to, that's going to speak on their language. Can I keep up with the church on my smartphone? Can I download your app? Are you trying to speak to me in avenues that I'm constantly using day by day? So I just kind of think they're simply bored. I'm a first year millennial, barely, but I'm a first year millennial myself, and I just kind of feel that's how the majority of these millennials and post millennials. You just got to speak their language, and you got to put them to work too. You definitely got to use their talent, because a lot of millennials is they just like anybody, one of the important needs, people want to feel important, and that's definitely true for millennials. So you definitely got to put them to work and put them to, get them involved in stuff, and don't just expect them just to sit on the pew. That's over.
What do you have to say about that, Brother Glenn?
Sorry, I had it on mute.
No, you good. You good. We always look. That's common. Everybody, we forget we be on mute. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was on mute. I was trying to. I heard what he was saying about getting them involved and getting them in the pews and speaking their language, and that he's right on the money. I mean, that's exactly what we're out here trying to do. And what's happening is, because I came in, I'm older than them. When they look at me, I'm not as young. I'm not old, but I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm 39 years old, so I'm older than them. And I grew up in an era where my grandfather was the pastor and my great grandfather was the pastor, and it was so traditional that they want me to still preach traditional. So I get crucified by bringing in the young vibe. I'm a hip hop artist. I have songs. I had a dream I went to heaven, had a talk with God, beautiful thing, but I was questioning why life's so hard. And I'm speaking a language and I'm doing music and I'm having a good time with these kids. And then when I get in the back in the office, grandpa like, don't you ever do that again. And I'm like, huh? It's a ways you handle stuff in church. And it's like, yo, it's crazy. Like, you just push us out. And even when I was only 13, he made a statement. If y'all can't come to church with shoes on and a shirt and a tie, don't come at all. And I'm like, well, I thought this was the house of the Lord. So it's like, we have to get to that place where we are actually communicating on their level. Now, I'm not saying, like, a great friend of mine, Mike Sean, he said to me, and he works on regular radio, but he hosted one of my mixtapes, and he said the only thing in life that's not negotiable is the gospel. And to hear that from somebody that's in the world telling me, yo, the only thing that's not negotiable is the gospel. So I'm not saying that, you know, we have to change, because the gospel is the gospel, but we can reach them from their level. We can come to them at their level. We can preach it in a way that they would understand. We could teach them in how they would understand and stop being so traditional all the time. That's just my end on it.
So I'm gonna kind of put you guys on the spot because I kind of know a little bit about your background. So how do you apply? Let me start with Brother Curtis, because we talked about technology. Brother Curtis, tell them a little bit about what your business is, and are you actively involved in the church, or how much? Let me ask, how much business do you get from different churches based on what you do?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm definitely, you know, for that very reason, you know, I had to, you know, Brother Ray, I didn't get a chance to. We got, I hadn't got a chance to tell you this. We got to talk. But I, you know, for that very reason, since it's on subject, I'll say it here. But for that very reason, you know, I just recently switched churches.
Woo!
You know, I just recently switched churches.
Okay, hold on. I got to cut you off. I got to stop you for a second. Inquiry minds want to know, why did you switch churches? Okay, we gonna keep it real. We gonna keep it real.
Yeah, we gonna keep it
church fashion, but you're a millennial. We need to know why you switched churches.
Look, we gonna keep it A100. I switched churches because they didn't. I was trying to get involved, you know, and as far as with my gift in technology. I have a technology business, and I was trying to help out with the technology. And every time I got, you know, I sent emails, I talked to people, you know, I served, you know, I was serving in the parking lot ministry. And don't get me wrong, I'm thankful to serve in the I was thankful to serve in the parking lot ministry. Met a lot of different people, and very, you know, I definitely, you know, I loved all my brothers, you know, in the parking lot. We all served together. But that's just not my gift. You know, I'm trying to serve.
So you a technology guy, and there's nothing wrong with working in the parking lot, but they saw your gift as a parking attendant.
Man, they look. I would talk to exactly. I would talk to people about it, and those people would freeze up like I was trying to take their job, and I wasn't even trying to get on the payroll. I'm just trying to volunteer. You know, I'm just trying to volunteer and serve the church. And so, you know, that wasn't necessarily the only reason, but, you know, I happened to meet I went to a government, you know, walking in my gift. I went to a government contracting meeting. And,
so you do other stuff outside the church?
Oh, absolutely.
I just want to make sure.
Absolutely. I was at a government contracting meeting. We were at a class, and the gentleman that sat behind me, he had some trouble with his laptop, and he was so adamant about me fixing his laptop. So I took it right there, and I got it back to him in 24 hours. I felt the peace with him, and I invited him to pick it up. I invited him to my house to pick it up. And then he hits me with, well, we're going to need you to send the church a proposal. Had no idea this guy, he introduced himself as James, had no idea he was a pastor or nothing. It took me a while to figure that out. But I sent the church a proposal, and we began to talk, and I said, well, let me just go check this church out, you know? So I went for about a month and a half, and really good word, loving people. And everybody, oh man, we really need your gift here. We really need your gift here. You know, we could really use somebody in technology. And so that was really why I decided. I said, I think this is I prayed about it. Don't get me wrong. I prayed. I took my time, talked to family, but ultimately I had to go ahead and get realigned. So that's why.
All right, brother. Brother Glenn, you know, you are a rapper. You actually was getting ready to go big time, but you made a decision to change. Tell us a little bit about how are you using that gift in the church, and how has that been pushed away in certain areas, and also and share why did you switch churches or no longer go to church? Let's go with that. Go ahead, brother.
All right. Well, the reason why the church is no longer there is because you had people paying their tithe, but you had the pastor, the senior pastor, stealing the money. So the church had vanished, and that's the bad part. That's the sad part of that, because you had a lot of young people saying, well, what happened? You know what I mean? And they asking me questions as the associate pastor. I don't really want to throw anybody under the bus. So I'm saying, I don't know what happened. Talk to Bishop about that situation. You know what I mean? And so that's as far as why I had to take a stand back on just being cautious about even what church I join or where I go now, just because I'm just watching too much. They were doing stuff like having the first lady come to the front and it's her birthday, throw money under her feet and let her run over money and all kind of stuff. And it was just like, it just felt like spiritual, like witchcraft and all kind of control and everything in the building. So it was a big turnoff for me in that season of my life. When I got called to go to that church, I was like, why did you call me to go there? You know what I mean? Like, of all places, this church. But it was a big lesson, because I know in the end what God is doing to me with this fatherless program, things that I should not do when people are sowing into this program, and how honest I have to be, and how I have to be a good shepherd over what God has given me for his people. That's that part.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Who we got popping on here? Oh, okay. That's Brother Curtis. You came with the. Okay, you came. All right. So look, and y'all see me looking over there. I'm actually inviting some other men of God to jump on board. I'm appreciating you. I'm appreciating you guys. Really, really. I'm appreciating you guys today. So look, if you see my head going down, that's because I was inviting people. So here's my next question. And what are there in the body of Christ right now? And I just want, do you feel you have mentors in the church, in the kingdom, that is mentoring you, that's trying to get you to another level in Christ without all the emotional stuff attached? Or let me, is the church allowing you to use your freedom in the church where God has placed in your life? If y'all understood that question.
For me, I think so now. It's still very early in the game, but from what I've experienced so far, for me, absolutely. And I'm not I'm not gonna call the church out by name, but the previous church that I went to, I mean, you weren't really just gonna get you get a moment to have like a word with the pastor. You would get, you would get times, but where I'm going to now, I mean, we text pretty often, pretty much every week. He's always accessible. Like I said, very, and they were loving people at my previous church too. Don't get me wrong. Great word, but it was just kind of like a line that was drawn, and it's almost like you had to. I don't know what exactly you had to do to serve in certain capacities. I guess I really didn't speak that language. I guess nor was I trying to. But I think where I'm aligned with now, I think that I will. But time will tell.
Brother Glenn?
I'm not. Can you? I got thrown off with the question because I was stuck into listening to what he was saying, what Curtis was saying.
Let's keep it real simple. How is the church allowing you to use your gift, or is it allowing you to use your gift?
Well, it's not allowing. It won't allow me to use my gifts. I'm always outside doing other churches and going to other churches to minister musically, because the church that I'm in now, they're just so traditional. They don't believe in, hip hop or, things, just the way I am, with my dreads in my head, all of that. They don't like anything about my appearance or anything. They just so old school. It don't make no sense. But they don't even really allow it. So I have to go other places to use the gift. And then last week, I got a phone call from the pastor, and what was said was, I'm operating out of order by using my gift in other churches. And I was like, I don't understand how. It's my gift. If I can't do it here, I can't just stop. So if you want to do it like that, then I feel like I'm going to have to resign from this church, because I'm not going to allow anybody to stop my gift in this season.
So that's a good question. Do you feel when, for instance, if you don't align yourself up with what the pastor is saying, do you feel if you leave, do you feel that there's a guilt thrown on you, saying that you leaving before your time, or here's the real question: Are
Oh
you?
yeah, she tried to throw that on me too, that I wasn't that wasn't God's will for me to leave and this, that, and the third. But before I even started this church, God told me not to go anywhere else that wouldn't allow me to use my gift. So I was already spoke to about it a few times, and it was already confirmed. So when they wouldn't allow me to use the gift, I waited patiently. I asked a few times. I talked to him, and what happened was, this is an AME church, but what happened was I got invited to another AME church and they all knew each other. So then I go to that church and I used the gift well. So then it got back to the church that I'm in now. And now they're asking me, hey, you know what? Why don't you try to use that here? But it took all of that. I didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't resign. I told them I would have to if they wouldn't allow me to use and continue to do what I was doing. But God allowed me to go down to Atlantic City and Pleasantville and use the gift at other AME churches. And then it got back to this church and they're like, well, now you should try to use it here. So, I'm glad I didn't run right away. Hopefully that we can bring some change in this church. I told them it's very old fashioned, the way they even handle the church. They don't have any up-to-date tempo type songs or anything like that. When they're talking about bringing youth in, but when I come in there, it's nothing but all older people, and it's a constant dead flow in there. So I'm like, listen, if y'all want to do something different, everybody's always like, we need to get people, but we're going to have to change a little bit inside the body itself too in this building. I said, give me fourth Sundays. Give me a youth Sunday. Let me do my own thing starting at 2:00 in the afternoon or something, just so that we can pull people in. So now I have a meeting with the presiding bishop to see what they're going to do to allow me to have like a fourth Sunday where it's like we can do our own thing in there. So hopefully it works. I'm not sure, but I was getting shunned with the gift for a while, but I just kept praying and seeing what would happen.
I saw you shaking your head, Brother Curtis.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with him. Especially the part where he said he was thinking he was going to have to resign. Because he couldn't use his gift. I mean, I feel Pastor Glenn. I mean, he's doing what Paul did. He's doing what Jesus did. Jesus had to come in the human form to relate to us. So we have to be able to transform to relate to the young people and to the people of the world now. So if you're in an organization or a body that's not comfortable with with your camouflage, so to speak, then yeah, it may be time to bounce. Yeah.
So there's 5 reasons that millenniums don't come to church. I'm going to share the reason. I want you guys to agree, disagree, and expound and or have a solution. What would you feel like the solution? Here's the first one. The church is irrelevant. The leaders are hypocritical, and leaders have experienced too much moral failures. Agree, disagree, expound. What would be the solution? I'll read it again. The church is irrelevant. The leaders are hypocritical, and leaders have experienced too much moral failure. Agree, disagree, expound. What's the solution? Is the church relevant, man, as far as what's going on today? Okay, or are the leaders hypocritical? There's so much moral decay in the church. Agree, disagree. Anyone y'all can go first.
Well, I mean, I agree to an extent, Brother Ray, because that's really what you hear about. You always hear about the pastor that did X or the pastor that did something bad. That's kind of always the trending deal. But I do agree to that to an extent, but at the same time, as far as being relatable, um, we have to be able to, as far as being relatable, we got to kind of let them know that really there is no perfect church, because there is no perfect person, and we all have faults.
Amen.
We all come short at some degree, and I feel like if you go, into that and just be upfront and like, hey, we don't expect you to be perfect. We're not perfect. Then it wouldn't just be you know, such a hot topic when something goes astray or when something immoral happens. So I just kind of feel like we gotta lead in that way from the beginning, and just kind of lower those expectations, and really just kind of let them know that it is a walk. It is a daily walk, hourly walk in
Oh,
some cases.
good point. Lower those expectations. Good point. Good point.
Your answer okay, brother Glenn, your response?
I mean, I'm right with him. I'm with Brother Curtis. I agree and then I disagree. It's the same thing. The church is always relevant. Period. It's always going to be relevant. You need the body of the church. You need the church. That's the healing. That's where we go. That's our healing place. For the sick. We got to get there. So I understand that. But as far as like the hypocrite part, yeah, I've seen pastors do things that was so hypocritical that it didn't even make sense. That I was like, wow, you're a hypocrite. Like on one end, you did this because of this certain member, but then you did this because this person was closer to you. And then, so you let this slide because it's somebody that that's close to the whole body, like to the membership. And then because it's that person and he's not as close to anybody else, he caught the messed up end of the deal. And I done witnessed it like, wow, hold up. You just let him get away with the same stuff that you threw him and set him down for. Like, you can't be that. And then it ran through the church. Like, look how they doing this. So yeah, it's a lot of that hypocrite stuff. It's hypocritical in a sense. It's a lot of it. Some of these pastors, they put their suit on and then they act like they Superman and they'll put you on blast in front of the congregation. They'll say some stuff to you that's supposed to be said to you behind closed doors. It'll say some stuff in front of congregation members where you looking awkward, like, yo, why you put me on blast right in front of the church? Like, I done seen a lot of stuff happen. And so I don't know. I'm gonna leave this whole topic alone. This situation is crazy.
No, because I'm getting ready. Here go my other thing we talk about is the church irrelevant? You said the church is relevant and always so, but you were saying relevance inside of the church. Is the church relevant in sex trafficking? Hello?
You want me to answer that question?
Yeah.
I'm not touching that one.
Yeah, I think the pastors need
No. Come on, brother Curtis. I'm gonna come back, brother Glenn. No, we got. See, this is what we got to touch because that's what makes the church not relevant when we don't touch stuff. Go ahead, brother Curtis.
I don't know. Maybe,
I saw when I said that where you went.
Look, maybe the pastor and the apostles maybe need to talk that one out. You know what I'm saying? But no, I think here's the thing though. I think that the church needs to take a stand, on a political stand on all of this stuff, because people want to say, there's a separation of church and politics. No, politics is the church. It's in the Bible. Our Bible is political. It reads like a law book. I think the church should have a formal agenda, just like certain groups do. You got certain groups that fight for their rights, what they feel they should have the right to do and the right to live. I feel the church, should also have an agenda, and we should take stances on certain things. So yeah, I think there should be a stance and an agenda to counter the sex trafficking. Absolutely. But not just that, everything else too. Because the thing about it is, if we don't have an agenda, those other groups, and I'm not gonna name them, but those other groups and different organizations, that fight for how they want to live and what they want to have the right to do, they had an agenda for years. And bit by bit, they fought it through the courts, they fought it through different political systems. And we have to do the same. And until we unite and figure out what we want to do and actually get an agenda and take stances, then we're not going to be able to affect the right change in the world.
And you have some, here's the next question, should, and you were touching on it, should the church deal with social issues? Because you got a lot of pastors and stuff saying we don't deal with social issues. So should the church be dealing with social issues? I know when in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, churches always dealt with social issues. When they was doing the March on Washington, when they were doing the boycott, those were all social issues. So why today is it that we don't need we don't need a leader, or we don't need somebody to have a main speaking? Because the young people say, well, you had the Malcolms, you had the Martins, you had all these, right? But when they got killed, the movement fell apart. So, okay, if we know that, you still need that speaker, but you need to have that person in line in case that happens. So what is so different now than in the past that we don't want to deal with social issues, nor do we want to have somebody take a lead on it? Because it's always about, we don't need a leader. We all got the same to say.
Well, I think, I'm not exactly sure what changed back. I am aware that, the church was involved in a lot of social issues, and I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I do think that we do. I'm not going to say maybe a leader, but I would say we do need
don't skirt around. Don't skirt around it. You go ahead and say what you gotta say. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, anybody can lead. You don't have to be in the front to lead, but I think we do need a person that's going to sound the alarm. And then we need people that's going to be able to work behind the scenes and actually get policy and things done, in the same way that they do it. You may hear about some stuff in the news, but behind the scenes, they're actively negotiating and doing what it takes to actually get this stuff done. We got to hit them from both angles, and a lot of times all you hear is the person that's kind of up front sounding the alarm. That's why I wouldn't necessarily call them a leader, but we do need somebody to kind of step out and sound the alarm so we can get to work and actually change some of this stuff.
What'd you say, Brother Glenn?
Nah, I mean, my point might not even make sense to this topic, but a lot of times what I was about to say was, a lot of times what happens is some of the pastors, when they step out, to get in front of some of this, they end up getting involved in the politics, and when you start rubbing hands in those politics, you start seeing a dirty side that you really don't even like. And you start to bend and bow down to the politics, where they start greasing your hand and giving you some money and putting your mind in a different angle. And you might have stepped up originally to help, but then once you get involved in, like when they was telling me, get involved with your mayor and your governor and this and that and your township. And when I started going to some of these meetings and being around it, I started to see some of the pastors that I knew that were strong founded in Bible doctrine and principle, not the same people. And I prayed about, I said, God, what's this about? And he said, don't get involved in too much of the politics. I mean, you can come around them, you can see what's going on with it, but once you get too deep in, it's like they bread and butter in your hand, they shutting you up, they making you be kind of silent. You become like not to say it like, I know somebody might become offended, you might become a Jesse Jackson, and I always call him a fronter. You know what I mean? I don't care what you tell me. You become an Al Sharp, then you a fronter. You only on the front line when you just trying to make a little speech about something, but you ain't got nobody back at the end of the day. And so a lot of us get involved in the politics of it, trying to make a change, and that what corrupts our mind from the gospel and the scriptures.
Well, you know what? That's a good point, Pastor Glenn. That's a good point. But I would say that is a ministry, just like we talk about relating to these kids and these millennials. Politics is a ministry too. There's no way we got to get. Hey, look, we got to get in the game. We got to get deep into it. It's no way to.
No, I'm not saying don't get into the
it's-
politics, but I was saying that the things that are
right.
involved in their actual game, like it's a
and how
dirty,
it can
dirty
affect
game.
and how it can affect us. No, I'm gonna get to that. I'm
Right.
gonna speak to that too.
Right.
No, but it's impossible to it's impossible to be in the pig pen and not smell like pigs. We're supposed to smell like pigs. We're supposed to that's the camouflage. We're supposed to smell like pigs, but we aren't supposed to be strong enough to influence them. But yeah, we're supposed to in some capacities, without violating our faith. Absolutely, we're supposed to play that game, because how are we gonna get in to gain the trust? How are we gonna get in? So to me, I think we do need to get deep into that, and to get into those systems and affect those systems and penetrate those systems, and not be the victims of those systems and be transformed by those systems. We got to be able to transform them. But I do get your point, and that's a sad part about it. That's very sad.
But here's the thing. Here's what we have to look at when the Bible talks about to become living epistles to be read by all men. It also talks about, don't let your light be the candle be hid under a bed. So here's the thing. If it's darkness, wherever darkness is, we're supposed to come because we're light. We have to stop being afraid to go into the darkness, not realizing, understanding who we are. Yes, there's some people who are going to go into the light and start getting their palms greased and this and that. And Jesus said, well, they were never one of us anyway. You see, so and I think the church wants to use that as an excuse, because let's deal with reality. This reality. This in this society, because we're supposed to go into the world system and change it to kingdom systems. If you don't go into the world system will continually override the kingdom system, and no one will never see it. So when you look at politics, you have to change policies to make a difference. And if you're not inside to change the policies, then things don't change. Trust me, God can do whatever he wants. I am proponent and all that stuff, but he has placed us here on earth to do some things. He has given us the responsibility, has given us gifts and talent to do certain things, to when you look at the Old Testament, how they would just come in and take over stuff. You know what I'm saying? When you look at, that was like some crazy stuff. He told them go in there and kill everything. He didn't want nothing left of that old world. He didn't want nothing left of that old kingdom. Kill it all. Because if you leave something to chance, it's going to come back to bite you. So I think that's something that we really need to understand, that who we are, the authority that we have in the church. And I think a lot of times we're trying to tippy toe and not offend people, and not to do this and not do that, and we ain't supposed to do this. But then when you look at the congregation, ain't nothing changing in their life. So let me ask you a question. One of the things that it said too, it says that the second thing they said why they didn't come to church, God is missing in the church. That's what I'm talking about. There you go, my brother. God is missing in the church. Is that so? Is God missing in the church? Millennials are saying the reason they don't come to church because God is missing. Is that true?
I don't know. I don't know if I really understand that one, bro. Right?
Okay. Let me read it. Let me read it. It says people go to church looking for God, but are having difficulty finding him. This one hurts, but in an age where perception is reality, you can't ignore this criticism. The personal experience with God is disturbing. It would be easy to point at rock show churches and blame them. But the truth is that people in all kinds of experiences from charisma have left the church in search of God.
I would say in that point right there that what I'm getting, is that, like, the Holy Spirit, it's not God, it's not, it's just like, his spirit ain't always going to be present based on the fact of, all right, now check this out. How many people say this? You got a building for 30 days, you pay rent for 30 days, but you're only there 8 days out of the month, right? So why you're not there?
Hold on, say that again. Hold on. So you got a building for 30 days that you're paying for 30 days, but you're only using it 8 days a month. Go ahead.
8 days. You're only using the 8 days, right? And so why are you not there 3 or 4 days out of the week praying and ushering the spirit of God in that building? Like, sometimes I'll be like, I used to say to my pastor, look, this building is empty. Why are we not doing noonday prayer, afternoon day prayer, some type of prayer? We need to be praying to get the usher the spirit of God in that building, so that when these people come in this church, they're going to feel the presence of God. Sometimes you could just go into a church and not feel anything. You don't feel no presence whatsoever. And I think that that's the thing that they were trying to say. I don't really think they're not saying that, God is not, they don't feel the spirit. They don't feel the presence of God. They don't feel anything in the building. I've been to churches where I'd be like, hey, this just dry, dead. I don't feel no anointing, no presence of God, no nothing in this building. And I can relate to them. But to say that God is not there, that's a lie. God is always in the midst. But are you praying and ushering his spirit into your building? Are y'all fasting and doing what y'all supposed to do? Are y'all getting God to be in there like he should be? That's all I'm saying.
Bro Curtis?
I agree with Pastor Glenn totally, but I would also say I would agree with all of that he just said, but I think it's a direct reflection of the people, because, here's the thing: if they're not seeing God and they're seeing other people in the church, then they're not seeing God in the people in the church. And so I think that's a direct reflection of the people and that particular body, not necessarily the body as a whole, but I kind of think that just breaks down to the particular the each individual church. But no, I think I agree with Pastor Glenn on that 100.
Now, okay, we almost got this. This is gonna be my last thing. Okay, so Pastor Glenn says something so powerful. The church is 30 to 31 days in a month. We only use the church 8 days. Of course, we can open up the church for prayer and stuff like that. But at what point do we start opening up the church for literacy classes, for social service events, for programs, for one-stop shopping where people can come in and
for homeless, for homeless too, brother.
Okay, y'all. I see y'all ready for that one. Come on, who'll go first? Somebody go first.
That's embarrassing.
Go ahead,
bro.
Pastor Glenn.
No, that's embarrassing. I don't even want this one. But this is embarrassing. I mean, you hit it right on the nail, because I was asking them one time. My wife, she has a master's degree in nursing education. She get ready to go back for a doctorate. She wanted to teach in the church. And they tried to like raise up a crazy super price. And I'm like, wait a minute, we already tied. We do what we're supposed to do. We trying to open up the building. We're just getting started. But before we can even get started, you trying to pull crazy money out of people. There's been times where people tried to use our building to do things to get a ministry started and going. And before the ministry could even get started and going, the pastor already had his hands out like, this building ain't free. And you talking to members who tithe and do what they supposed to do on the back end. You should be just saying, okay, whatever you make monthly, give something to the church, give a 10% out of your monthly earnings and go forth. But a lot of times, I went up to certain churches, even though I wasn't a member, and tried to do certain things in the church, and they'll just straight shut you down. Like, we're not doing that. And I'm like, yo, your building is not even open, but for 8 days, I don't even see y'all open like that. And they just do not allow you to use their building for anything. We got young men out here that have classes. Him, Les Squire Jr.
Mm-hmm.
He has classes where he wants to teach inside different buildings and schools, and they won't even allow these young men out here to get a chance to teach any of these kids. And I think it's a shame, because the church should be the cornerstone of it all. We should be allowing everybody to get involved in the building. That only helps the building and the name of the building by you allowing other people and other ministries to do what they do. Then it helps the church and the ministry in itself and the body in itself to grow. And I think that that's what's stopping the whole body of the church from growing, when you're not allowing each other to grow and use the building.
Go ahead, Brother Curtis.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I agree. He hit it on the, he definitely hit it 100. I mean, what my thing is that, and we kind of talked about this. We had at my previous church, we had some type of summit, and or some type of summit or something, and basically there was a discussion about this, and one of the members raised a concern, and she was like, why don't we fill up these rooms up with beds and have some of these homeless people just come in, and we could be a shelter for them, 6 nights out the week, and because it's a building that's just sitting here and we're not using it. So I mean, I agree with those points. And I'm sure just Nashville is just like any other city. We got an issue with the homeless here in Nashville. You see homeless on every corner. They got some hustle to them. They sell papers and stuff, and they have an agenda and all that. But we could be. I definitely think the churches as a whole could do a lot more with using that building, their buildings to provide a space, and provide opportunities. And the thing about it is, if you get people in your building, that's an opportunity to minister. That's an opportunity to heal and really bring them to a kingdom. If someone doesn't have a roof over their head and you're providing a roof, I mean, why wouldn't they listen to you? Why wouldn't they give you, hear you out, hear what you have to say, or, why couldn't you be, more relatable to their circumstances? So I agree.
So I'm going to get you guys with the closing remarks. What did each of you guys give a closing remark? Let them know where you're from, what do you do, how they can get in contact with you. Okay. And man, we didn't have to do the video. We just made this video ourselves. Make sure you guys go to Exodus Life Change on YouTube. This is live to the public. Make sure you guys subscribe and hit your notification and share this. Share this with people, because this was powerful. So just give me your last words. Make sure people know where you're from, what you're doing, how they can contact you. Go with you first, Pastor Glenn, because I see you outside moving and shaking.
Yeah, you see that?
Yes, sir.
I'm moving and shaking, but I had to get in this conversation, fellas. I couldn't get out of it. So I got what? So say father to fatherless generation.
Yep. Tell about your organization, where you at, how people can contact you. If you need donation, put it all out there right now. And
yeah, if you want to donate to the father to fatherless generation, we have a few ways you can do that. You got P.O. Box 721, Sicklerville, New Jersey, 08081. Also, you got Fatherless GEN at Cash App. What we have is a program called Fatherless Generation. God is so good. We were just provided. Now think about this. We were just talking about this. We were just provided with a building. I know a man who owned the building. He only was using the building for 3-4 hours out of every day, only Monday through Thursday. He just gave us the building for whatever we want to use it for, classes, literacy, whatever. We're able to. He has a basketball gym in there, indoor football, weight room, everything. So the Fatherless Generation will be starting our program there every Friday night and Sundays, starting in January. So God is definitely moving. So if you want to help out with this ministry, I would appreciate it. Like I said, my name is Glenn Morton, but you can write it out to Fatherless Generation, P.O. Box 721, Sicklerville, New Jersey, 08081.
How can they contact you if they want to volunteer or something?
If you want to volunteer and you want to call me, you can reach out to 856-379-5737. Again, that's 856-379-5737. That's my cell phone. I'm always open to a conversation, or if you want to get in, just get involved.
And give us a last word. What's the last thing you got to say to the audience?
God bless you. Thanks for listening. And I hope that you continue to follow what we're doing with this movement and get involved.
Go ahead, Brother Curtis.
Yeah, so I'm Curtis Payne with Payne Technology, your one-stop shop for your IT or technology solutions. So we specialize in managed services. So we'll manage your technology, we'll fix your technology, computer repair, laptop repair. We specialize in working on Macs, Apples specifically. So iPads, MacBook Pros, anything Apple Watch, crack screen to your mobile device, Androids as well. So that's what we specialize in. You can ship it to me, and we got contacts in Atlanta and different places where you can drop it off. You can reach me at 615-398-2837. You can also email us at info@payne.technology. So that's info@payne.technology. That's how you can reach me.
What's the last word you want to say to the people?
Last word to the people. Well, I enjoyed this. I thought it was a very good, a very good video. I thought it was a different. Brother Ray went with a different style today. I wasn't expecting this, but it's all good. So I enjoyed it, Brother Ray. And hey, keep doing what you're doing, sir. Very inspiring.
And I just want to let y'all know, I get some housekeeping stuff real quick. Both of these guys, both of these organizations, both of these brothers are with the Exodus House Incubation Program. You want to be a part of it. This year, we're actually elevating to the National Incubation Business Association. We going big time this year, so they're going to be a part of it. But listen, this race going to come to you live all the way from here. Where's here right here, man? It's one thing I want to say before we get off. I love your hat. Brother Glenn, I love that hat, anointed. We got to work on Brother Curtis hat, because he got that Tennessee Titan football hat on, right? He's from Memphis, Tennessee. We got to work on him. We got to get him to be more professional when he come online.
Hey, we gonna do it tomorrow, man. We're gonna do a big game,
but take that hat off. Take that hat off.
I love you guys. I love you guys. And look, what we always say here at Ray's Corner Live, God loves you and I love you. And guess what? Ain't nothing you can do about it. Peace out. Love y'all. Holla.